Hi, this video will show how to use JavaFX in IntelliJ, which is my preferred IDE for now. So what I did beforehand in another video was I installed it OpenJFX 15 just by copying it into program files and a folder called Java. So I have it already. I need to know where it is. It's right here. So what I'm going to show now is how do I actually integrate JavaFX into IntelliJ. So first off, I need to open up IntelliJ. So I'll find it, open up IntelliJ. I have the ultimate version. You can use the free version if you want. It's just because when you're with an educational institution, you can get the ultimate version for free as long as you're studying. So I just chose that, but the free version is fine. Okay, so I already have something running here, some other project. So I'm just going to show you how do we actually get JavaFX up and running. So let me show you how we can just create a new project. So I go up here and I say new project. And first off, I need to choose, I like to start out with the JavaFX project. You don't need to do that. You can start with Java and do everything yourself, but you get a few things set up and I like that. You see I'm using Java version 14. I showed that in another video how to download and install that. Basically, it's in the same folder as my JavaFX. I just put it there myself. Okay. So I choose Java version 14 and I should have downloaded already JavaFX 14 or later. That should work best with this. I need to give it some kind of name. I would call it simple app, and you can put the location. I would recommend that you do something with backup, either using Git for doing um, version control, or that you put it in some kind of folder that you can actually back up. I'm not doing this for this because I'm just showing how to do it, but if you're developing application, it would be a very good idea to back up whatever you're doing, because oftentimes things get deleted and you can lose a lot of work. So I can choose either to open it in this window or I can open it in a new window. So I'll just choose new window, keep the old one here because I want to show something with that. So I'll open up a new window. Okay. So now I have two programs at the same time. Yeah. So if we look into this simple app, we have different files here. We have one called controller, and we have one called main, and we have a file called sample.fxml. So the first thing we will notice is that after some time, IntelliJ gets around and checks all of the dependencies in the project, and we get errors all over the place. So it says cannot resolve JavaFX. And that is because we need to tell IntelliJ how are we going to import JavaFX into this project. So right now it doesn't know anything. If we look into the external libraries that we have, we can see there is one under program files Java JDK 14. So I have Java itself, so I can do things like so the main method here, let me just, so I could write something from Java such as system out print line hi. So that wouldn't give me any problems because it already knows about Java. It already imported that and it has it right here. So of course, to make Java programs we need the basic Java stuff, and that's the JDK 14. But if we want to do graphical user interfaces with JavaFX, we get into problems because it's not part of Java. So that's why we downloaded JavaFX. So in order to make this user interface work, first thing we need to do is, of course, we need to import that somehow. And there are two ways. One of them is using the JMods, and this one I'm just using the basic way to do it with the SDK because I find that easier in the beginning. But later you can look into JMods and also into other parts of that. Let's just go to it here. So what we want to do is we want to add it to these external libraries. So there's nothing here to right off the bat just to do it here. So we have to go into our menu up here to do that. So what we can do is we can go into File here, and we can go into the Project Structure menu. And in the Project Structure menu, we have all the information about the project itself. This project, it's called Simple App. It's Java 14. We saw that. We created that just a minute ago. There are the modules, which I'm not going to use here. And then there's this libraries thing. And this is actually where we need to add JavaFX. And also some other stuff here like platform settings, stuff like that. But I think libraries is the important thing for now. So we go into libraries, we click the plus icon, and there are three ways that we can kind of get this. We can get directly from Java, we can get from Maven, which is just a specific way of downloading dependencies, like it downloads the library from online, and then there's some Kotlin JS stuff as well. And that's just another kind of programming language that we can use. So I'll just pick Java because then we can go and find the program we downloaded before. So I go to Program Files, go to Java, I go to the SDK 15, and we need to go not into the bin folder, this is the Windows part, we need to go into the lib folder, and then we need to import the files that we need here. So I click OK, and I did the entire library like that. I say OK, and now we can see we have the JavaFX base and controls and everything set up here. So now we see it takes a moment, and then IntelliJ realizes everything is okay. You see all the red is gone. There's actually no problems right now, no warnings, nothing. So we can see it needs the application, JavaFX application, FXML, and if we look in here in the Java files, we could actually go in here and see these are JavaFX beans. Wanted to show controls, for example. JavaFX scene parent, JavaFX scene, it's in here. So we can't see it's a class that's under this, so we can't see the classes, we can only see the top names. So, but we can see JavaFX scene is here, so we definitely need this one, and we need also the FXML one. It's probably JavaFX FXML is probably here, but we probably didn't need to import all of them, so we could have taken just some of them. We don't need the source code like this, but yeah, so these Java files are basically the library that we imported. So I just imported the entire library, so I don't need to worry about that. So what you would think now is that now that everything looks good and dandy and everything, you should just be able to run the program just by clicking this nice little green button, right? So let's click, and we'll see what happens. So we get quite surprised here because it says JavaFX runtime components are missing and are required to run this application. So why is that? So you need to understand there are two different things. One of them is when IntelliJ looks for the libraries, it looks in here to see if they are available. but you also need to change the way that it runs the program, because when it runs the program, you can see it does this. It runs Java, the Java executable. This is what runs the program, and then it runs the with a lot of different things here, a lot of different information, and unfortunately, this doesn't just work out of the box. So we need to do one small change. So what we need to do is we need to change the way that it runs the program, and that is done up here. When I click this button, it has a configuration called main, and that is the configuration it will run. So you can have different kinds of ways to run the program. So if we edit the configuration, up here we can see that in this program I kind of switched over. Let me just show you something. So if we look, I'm sorry, I was just in the other program. So let's go configuration here. We see there are no VM options here. So one of the options is we have to feed into the run method. We have to feed where the actual JavaFX is located. So we need this path here to be in the VM options. And I saved that in my clipboard earlier. So what we do is we say module path to say there's a module in here, and you see this is version 14. Sorry. And we then say it needs to add the modules, and we say the controls, JavaFX controls and JavaFX FXML. And after doing that, we should be able to play and run the program. So see, now it pops up with a window that says hello world. So now we can actually run the program. So let me just go back and show you what's going on. So here is the actual, this is the path for the JavaFX SDK, but we actually used version 15, so I probably need to change this. If you look here, this is the same path, program files Java, JavaFX SDK 14.02. So this is this one, and I actually want this one. So maybe I should just remove this and just type 15 instead. So be sure that we're using the same library for IntelliJ as we're using when running it. Let's see if it still works. Okay, so it still works, so everything is good. You just need to be careful with the path in here, that that it is the correct path, and also you need to add the modules. And when it says add modules, you can look here where it says JavaFX and then controls and JavaFX FXML. So I'm basically saying I need these two here, and the reason why we need them, we need to import them, is because we're using them in the program. Okay, so now we have a running program. I just want to briefly touch on why this works, because right now if we look into, we have the main method, and what we can see in here, it doesn't do a lot of stuff in here. Now I put the system out print line here. Let's remove that for a second. So what it does, basically, we know all Java program starts with main, so it will always run from this method here. This method will call another method, a static method called launch. We can see because it's in italic. If I press control here, I can see it's a static method coming from something called a class called application. And if you look up here, this is the import for it. So application comes from JavaFX. So this is kind of the starting point for the application. Instead of doing stuff in here, we leave everything up to JavaFX to say what's going on. So what this launch thing does, it kind of starts up the JavaFX framework, and they do all their magic in the background. And when they've done their magic, JavaFX application will automatically run this method called start. And you can see here that main extends application, and there's a method in the application called start. So you have to override that method in order for application to know what to do whenever the program is started. So let's look into the code briefly, what it actually does. So we see it uses something called FXML loader, which is for loading user interfaces into JavaFX. And it's loading a file called sample FXML. And that file is here. I'll show that in a moment. So this is defining what the user interface looks like. Then it says, I want to set the title of the primary stage. And in JavaFX language, they like to call it the stage, but the stage is actually the window. So we said when we say we wanted to say hello world, it's actually whatever it says in the window. For example, if I open up Explorer, this is the name here. So it will be, if I run the program here, you can see it should say hello world in the top here. Yeah, this is the name of the program. So if I change this into something else like hello Java, it should also change that title on the window. So when it says stage, you know it's actually the window they're talking about. Because in JavaFX we have the stage, which is the window with these buttons and everything, and then we have scene, which is the different scenes. That means the contents of the window. Um, so the next line actually creates a new scene that we put inside of the primary stage. And it's also set a width and a height here for that scene. And then we show the primary stage. That means show the actual window on screen. So that's basically what happens. It starts here. Let's application do its magic. Application kind of calls back to start here, and then we can take over and tell application what we want to do. So also we get the primary stage. So that is kind of created on launch. So we get the primary stage from here. So we have a starting point for our application to actually create a scene and show that scene and stuff like that. So that's basically what happens. Last thing I want to show is this FXML file, which looks like this. So an FXML file is following the XML language. So it's kind of like if you already know HTML, it's just HTML is a different form of XML. So you can probably recognize some of them if you know HTML from before. You can see we have these diamond notation, these bigger than, smaller than, bigger than, and slashes and stuff like that. But basically what you need in your FXML file, you need some kind of layout. In this case it uses something from JavaFX called grid pane. I'll do a separate video on FXML. But in this one it uses something called a grid pane for laying out the components. So we can't actually see that because there's nothing in there. So the reason why I kept the other application I already created is just to show you what we can do within that. So in the other application I changed, sorry I didn't. Okay, that was the same. Oh, I didn't do that. But um, I just wanted to say that we can change this stuff around, and we can actually get an editor for the FXML file to change everything, the layout and the looks. And there's also actually built in, this editor is built in into Scenebuilder, or into, sorry, it's called Scenebuilder and it's built into IntelliJ IDEA by default, but it doesn't always work, unfortunately. So in another video I'm going to show you how to download it, but I can briefly show you. Down here you can see it says text. This is the code, the FXML code, and we can click here to see what it looks like. I see I get an error, so I can download the Scenebuilder kit, which is kind of nice, and then it should work. But as I said before, it's not always working as it should. Okay. I don't know if it works. Yeah, so now it kind of works. We can see that if we go in here, we can see there's a grid pane, and if we look into Scene Builder, we can see that the grid pane is here and it's 0 by 0 or something. Unfortunately, we can't see it in here. So we can, this is the editor. I'll show that in another video. It's just to show that this is what it kind of looks like. So we have like three things. The main, just for starting everything up. We have a controller, which I'll show in another video, which actually controls the GUI. And then we have our FXML, which is what the GUI actually looks like. And we can use this editor to change what the GUI looks like. We can use this editor here to change which behavior the GUI should have, and this one for all the startup stuff. So that's it for this video, and in the next video I'll show how can we actually create and edit FXML files, how do we integrate them with the controller and make everything work nicely together.